Hey everyone, welcome to First Wednesday, March 2021. I want to do something a little different tonight, mainly because of what's going on in our country and really around the world right now. I want to address tonight the issue of the COVID-19 vaccinations, mainly because some of the staff have told me that many of you are asking questions about COVID-19 vaccine and what you should do. There's a lot of confusion out there in the minds of some folks. And so I'd like for us to address that. I think it's a valid question for us to consider, considering that we are still in the throes of a global pandemic. You know, it's really disheartened to learn I guess it's been about 2 weeks now, that the death toll in America alone has reached 500,000 lives. COVID-19 has claimed 500,000 lives directly because of the virus itself, or indirectly because it infected people who had compromised medical conditions already. But nonetheless, it was a contributing factor, 500,000 people. You know, over a year ago when this first happened, I was one who probably was thinking, oh, this is just another strain of the flu. A lot of people, unfortunately, a lot of people die from the flu directly or indirectly every year. Well, I'll tell you, the average number of people in America that die from the flu every year is 34,000. That's what it was in 2019, and that's pretty much the average. 34,000 lives lost is a lot, but it's not near 500,000. So this is much more dangerous than what I gave it credit to early on. And so I think it's something we should pay attention to. And it's a question we should answer as Christ followers. And so why do you need to address this as a church person? I mean, it's a public health issue. Why does the church have to be involved? Why do you have to have an opinion? Well, it's not so much my opinion. It's people want to know what to do. And I think that there's a lot of information, there's a lot of misinformation out there that's creating fear and confusion. And so, listen, if we can help not just Christians, but anybody avoid or remove the cloud of confusion and certainly remove the fear from something like this, then we should by all means do it. You know, it's unfortunate, but even the church is sort of adding to the fear and anxiety at times, because there's still a portion of the church that puts out information that is so from that information, it's easy to construct conspiracy theories, and that creates confusion and fear among people. And I am always, you know, hey, I'm at the plate. I'm on the field to dispel that kind of stuff right away. I think it is so unfortunate that the church would become involved at a point of creating anxiety and fear among people. So my hope is that we can think biblically about this as a Christ follower, and as we address it in just a few minutes here this evening. No, I'll go ahead and answer that question now. No, I will not be finding scriptures that apply directly to the COVID-19 vaccine. In fact, if any of you find it, you should call me. In fact, you should probably become the pastor, because I can't find it. It's not in there. Even though some people from the church will try to import our current day situation into the book of Revelation and make this about some of the end time events and the plot of the government to do whatever the government's supposed to do to people. So that's a mistake. We can talk about that some other time, but I'm just going on the assumption tonight that you agree with me that that's a mistake. We're not going to do that. You know, vaccines have been around a long time. I think 1798 was the first vaccine that was invented, and it was for the smallpox thing. And boy, did it work? Yes. And it gave kind of paved the way for more vaccines to come along. What are they supposed to do anyway? Vaccines are simply a way to help your body resist foreign invaders that they've never seen before. And they're dangerous diseases your body hasn't seen and perhaps isn't quite developed to. Now the system is there to fight infection and to resist those things, but a vaccine seems to speed that whole process up. When by the time you actually get the virus, your body has got a little bit of a blueprint of how to start fighting that thing. And if you get it, it won't be nearly as bad. And in most cases, you just don't get it. your body fights it off. So vaccines are not new. They've been around for a while. So what's all the fuss about vaccines? For a number of years there have been the non-vaxxers. We're not getting vaccines for anything because of this, and this, and this. And then there's the other people that just say, well, they're okay, they're good, they've proven to be a good help. I think the bottom line question with that is there's a fear of science. And in the church, sometimes there's a resistance to science, and it's as if we have to have some conflict between science and faith. And we feel like it's not faith if we're trusting science. Well, that's probably a series I should do sometimes. We should probably talk about science and faith at a deeper level. But you just know, for tonight's purposes, for me, there's no inherent conflict between faith and science. Not at all. In fact, I appreciate science. Listen, for me, goodness gracious, I have faith. I have a deep, abiding faith in God. I trust Him. I trust Him with my whole life. And I'm like everybody else. I don't trust Him perfectly. I have times where I don't trust anything or anybody, and even including God. And I go through these times, but I always circle back. When I come to my senses, I circle back, and the only thing, it's like I have nowhere else to go. Yeah, I know that sounded like an officer and a gentleman, but this is true. I got nowhere else to go. I got nowhere else to go. God, I trust Him. I trust Him for healing. I believe in healing. I believe in supernatural healing. I've seen a couple of people supernaturally heal in my life. A couple hundred? No, a couple. Yeah, I wish it were a couple hundred. Don't you? And folks, I'll just be honest with you. Most of the claims of supernatural healing that I'm hearing these days, I don't believe them. They're not documented. It's easy to get up on television and say anything you want and promote your ministry and yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. But listen, I think if that was going on a lot, we'd all be seeing more of that. I wish we did. I pray for the sick all the time, and I won't stop, because I do believe in supernatural healing. But I also believe in science. Of course, in my situation, I've certainly prayed, and I have been on the receiving end of a lot of prayers for healing, even supernatural healing. Well, I'm getting healed, but it's through science. But that too is supernatural, is it not? And I thank God for science. I thank God for scientists. I thank God for researchers and lab workers and medical professionals. And God has uniquely gifted people to do things that some of us just aren't good at. They're wonderful, and they're brilliant when it comes to chemistry and biology and problem solving in the area of medicine and disease, and they are just brilliant people, and they have done so much good. And the truth is, folks, listen, the truth is, the hardcore truth is, if it weren't for those scientific endeavors and those discoveries, my mantle cell lymphoma would have probably taken my life already. It's so aggressive and so fast, and it was caught late. But hey, I'm here. And it's because of science. But you see, I don't think it's just science. I think God is the one who's given science, and He's given scientists, and He's gifted people, not just with science, but with compassion. And so I have no conflict between science and faith. For some people, it's a big thing, and I get it. It's been a big thing really since the Enlightenment period. And the Reformers came along, and I am going to do a series on faith and science. You just hang on for that. We'll talk about it another time. Let's just talk about the issues. One issue that a lot of young parents have had in recent years has been the possibility of vaccines causing autism. And I don't understand this completely, but it has something to do with the antigens that we receive from the vaccines. And I don't... Can I tell you that when you go to the internet, you can justify anything you want to. And so you'll find a lot of theories, and you'll find a lot of scientific studies. I try to limit myself to the most reputable organizations that I can. And for me, the CDC is a very important one. Francis Collins, the director of the CDC, is a Christian, and he is just a brilliant man. And I trust him at the helm of the CDC. And the CDC has done studies on children who've been vaccinated, and they find no correlation between the vaccine and the cause as being the cause of autism. So I know that could give some of you pause, and you'll have to consult with your doctors on that. But I could refer you to the 2013 CDC study. You just Google that, you'll find it. Others are concerned about just how quick this vaccine became available. And the question becomes, well, did we choose speed over safety? Well, that's a great question. I think it really is, and it's a valid question. And at this point, I think we have to simply trust that safety was not compromised over getting it out quickly. But I would only imagine that a vaccine is important when you're having a global pandemic. And so I appreciate the speed in which it was produced. Now, don't be confused about this. There was incredibly large clinical trials on the vaccine, and it was tested on people of every age, every demographic, race, ethnicity, and it was found to be mostly safe, with rare exceptions. And it's still being monitored because there's still some fear that the disease itself mutating, and will the vaccine work? So they're going to continue to monitor the safety and the efficacy of the vaccine itself. There was a thing going around for a while that, well, listen, all we need is herd immunity. If enough people just get it, let's just expose people to it, let enough people get it, and when enough people are immune to it, it actually protects the unprotected, the vulnerable. Well, yeah, that's true, actually. But it's usually, in our history, has not been achieved without a vaccine. With COVID in particular, it's been said that 70 to 90% of our population would need to be infected before we could possibly achieve herd immunity. Well, here are the sad facts. In our case, that means 230 million Americans must contract the disease before we reach that. And with the statistics the way they are today, if 230 million more Americans are infected, that will result in at least 1 million more deaths from COVID-19, directly or indirectly. That's a horrible situation. Here's one that, I don't know, I haven't personally been impacted by this one, I guess, so much, but a lot of folks are afraid that there's some sort of tracking device, microchip or something in the vaccine, and it's all designed to get our information and know where we are and keep track of people. And I got my vaccination. I was looking for a microchip. I didn't see one. That was wrong. I shouldn't have said that. But listen, I think that may have come from this. There is the availability of a microchip for each label of each vaccination dose. And it has been produced to register location and time of when the vaccine was administered. Not who it was administered to, but when and where, and was it still good, it wasn't expired, that sort of thing. And it's my understanding is the United States isn't even using that. That is a system that's available, but we're not even using that. So I just wouldn't worry about that. I think a lot of that comes from that, once again, bad interpretation of the book of Revelation. So don't be afraid of that. No, there are no human tracking devices in the vaccine. So how should we think biblically about this? Well, that's a great question. Now here's the best advice I can give on it. While every medication, every vaccine has possible risk, and I don't think there's anything we can do to avoid that. Most of the medicines I take these days, the list of side effects and the list of risk is longer than the list of benefits. It really is. But we take them because The benefits far outweigh the risk. And the risks are very small. You know, here's what I would suggest to us. The other day I was in the doctor's office. It wasn't my oncologist, it was my GI doctor. I had to go in for something else, and they wouldn't let anybody in the waiting room, so I drove myself over, and they told me on the phone, said, don't come in without your mask on. Okay, fine, I get that. So I had my mask on and walked in and went to the receptionist, signed in, and she said, the restroom's right over there. Go wash your hands before we do anything. I said, golly, okay, yeah. So I went and washed my hands and came back out, and I took care of whatever I needed to with her, and then she takes me back to the nurse takes me back to the room, and in the room is somebody disinfecting the room from the previous patient being in there, and I mean wiping down everything. It's just amazing. She was just finishing up, and she had the little machine that spray and disinfect and everything. When I left that day, I thanked the doctor, I thanked the nurse, I thanked the receptionist for making it a safe place. In these last 9 months, being immunocompromised, I so appreciate people taking that kind of care of me. It's important. And it's important to them, obviously, to take care of others. And I was thinking when I walked out, I said, that's so Christian. That's so us. That's what we do. We take care of others. We think about other people. We love God. And what do? We love our neighbor. Yeah, that's the only biblical advice I can find about this thing is love your neighbor. But I think it's good advice. We try and practice that in every other arena. Why not this? There are vulnerable people, and I'm going to tell you, maybe I had to become a vulnerable person to really realize the depth of this, but I appreciate this taking care of others probably more than anybody today. I've been at times through this process where my immunity was absolutely zero. I was zero. I had my absolute neutrophil count was 0, which means you have no immunity. I tell you, on those days, I was more cautious, and the people in the hospital were more cautious with everything that they did. I appreciate it. It's called loving your neighbor. So see, we can protect ourselves with the vaccine. And even if you don't care about that, maybe you're young and strapping and you just say, this thing's not that bad. And that's an opinion. You can hold that. But if you hold that, what about the others that you could infect who aren't as young and strapping like we used to be? Love your neighbor. Oh man, I don't know. It's so inconvenient. Well, it's a sacrifice, but it takes sacrifice to love anybody, doesn't it? Isn't that what it is? Yes, I think so. So just think of others. That's my best advice to you. Check with your doctor. You got to figure out between you and your doctor. Some like I said earlier, you may not be able to take the vaccine. But if other people are taking it, who can, that protects you as well. Love God, love others. That's all I got. Hey, if you want some good information about this, I could refer you to biologos.org. biologos.org. It's really quite an informative website. The first thing you'll see if you go to it soon is a discussion between N.T. Wright, who is one of the foremost theologians of our time. I think we have every work he's ever written in our bookstore. He's just a brilliant theologian. There's a discussion between him and Francis Collins, who is a brilliant scientist who heads up the CDC. He's also a Christian. And the two of them talk about COVID-19. And so I think you could benefit greatly from just hearing other people, other voices that are not alarmist, but are just well grounded in faith and in science. It'd be worth the investment of your time. Well, thanks for hanging in there tonight. Man, Easter's coming, and I'm looking forward. I haven't seen you guys in so long. I'm looking forward to being with you. I'm going to be there Easter morning. We're going to have one big service outdoors at the church, 10 a.m. Our children will meet inside. They'll have their own thing going on, but we'll be outside. We'll have the full band out there on a stage, and it'll be my first day to be back in public. and really, at least with a lot of people around. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you. So God bless you. Thanks for tuning in tonight, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.